All right. Do we have a mic? Do we have a mic? Do we have a mic? All right. So it's right here. That's my microphone. So hopefully you can hear me. Oh my gosh. I was like 8 times trying to get that figured out, and I'm still not sure if you could hear me because there was only one green dot on this microphone indicator, on the volume indicator. All right, so I apologize. Let's get to it. So hi everyone, it's PJ, founder of Faith Forge Games. We are currently today going to go over the Antediluvian rule set. We have 4 settings. We have Tribulation, which is after the rapture. We have Vapor, which is space exploration and AI and artificial life forms that kind of took over. We have Cryptid Quest, which is being developed right now. That'll be in the 80s and deal with all the creepy things that go bump in the night. And then finally, Antediluvian, which is probably the setting that I've spent the most time on out of all of them. This takes place before the biblical flood of Noah's time. And I have 120 pages, I believe. It covers 9 classes. Those classes are from levels 1 to 10. And I'm currently working on subclasses, which will be a different book, but that will cover you from levels 11 to 20. Excuse me. So what we're going to do here is we're going to dive into Antediluvian. Forgive me. This is all done in Google Docs. It's unedited. I am not the greatest at sentence structure. My English and I don't even know what you call it, but me typing and writing is not the best. I have an editor. He has a full-time job and a full-time family, but he is doing what he can when he can. So we're not going to rush him. We, thank God for people like that are just humble and loving and just want to help. So we're going to give him as much time as he needs to get that stuff accomplished. Hopefully y'all could hear me. Hopefully I'll have decent signal where you can at least hear all of my stuff without me sounding like a robot. And let's get to it. All right, so let me figure this out. I've tried this like 30,000 times. So let me do a screen share. Go to, entire tab. I'm on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Can what? You can. I don't know where they see. I'm going over the game.
What are you talking about?
I'm going over
It's
the
on
game.
YouTube?
No. Yeah, it's live. You can go see if it's coming on. It's my baby. All right. So sorry. All right. Antediluvian. So it is a Christian-based tabletop role-playing game. This puts you as a character, again, in the time of before Noah, but in that 2,000 years after Adam was created. What, baby?
What's your channel name?
What is my channel name? Faith Forge Games.
Oh yeah.
Faith Forge Games is the YouTube, guys. If you haven't found me. Anyway, so this puts you into the world, into a terrible world, that is just filled with evil. But I use a lot of apocryphal books to build this setting. Okay, so whatever your stance on is, I'm not here to debate that. I don't really care. I'm just telling you up front that we're using Genesis as our measuring stick and our supreme authority, but we are using apocryphal books. We're using world mythology. We're using all of that to build a setting that kind of you can get in, play as a God-fearing person, a follower of God, and go forth, try to take on the corruption, the evil, the chaos that is being spread, and just point everybody back to God. All right, so with that being said, let's just continue. So we have the cover and the credits. Again, all of this is not edited. However, this open letter was added after my editor started. So he hasn't even addressed my open letter, but I don't think I want him to. I think that I want it to be natural and straight from me, regardless of how hard it would be to read for some people. So I apologize. This is as far as he's gotten, but he was editing something else for me as well. But literally everything you see, let me hide this, everything you see is going to be unedited and just from me. And again, this is built in Google Docs, so it's not like the most professional and crisp looking book. You can see lines above pictures and stuff like that. So again, give me some grace, and let's just kind of get through it. All right, so the premise is you are set in the 2,000 years period before the flood. There are civilizations that have been born and corrupted, and there are there's watchers, there's Nephilim, there's the Eliud, there's monsters, there's all kind of things vying for your attention and to pull you away from giving God the glory. I'm talking about generations and people as a whole, not the actual player. But there's people that are so bent on power in trying to be as God as, Satan was. So we used that. I'm using that as basically the premise for this. So I'm using Genesis 6, where the sons of man, the sons of God, the angels came, they married women, and their offsprings were the Nephilim. Your interpretation of Nephilim is up to you, and I give you multiple ways where you can have that interpreted however you wish. So you don't have to follow how the game is laid out, particularly one way or the other. You can carve and path and navigate. You can carve, navigate, create your own paths to whatever kind of world you saw, the world before the flood. Me as my own, and when I'm in my position and for me to play with, to us the Nephilim are the divine and the humans, which created, the mighty men of renown, the giants. Nephilim, gigantic figures. Sometimes they're just very human-looking figures in my setting, and are corrupting the world. They are giving the people oppressive, tyranny. It's just tyranny under these Nephilim. And we'll get to that in a little while, but you're pulled out from those people, and you're supposed to be taking on these powers, what we will know to become power principles and virtues and stuff like that rule over the world. However, we'll get to that. I'm sorry. Get to that. And again, I'm kind of scatterbrained, y'all, so I apologize. The old world order, again, we're talking about the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of God, and how they came down with the Watchers. Satan corrupted the Watchers, and these rebellious angels hatched their plan to, take dominion from Adam. And how they do that is they, God gave humanity dominion, so we're going to have the only way we could steal dominion is we have to have our own offspring, and have humanity give us that dominion freely. So that's kind of what they do. We talk about the gods of old and how they become these false gods, in their own rights. So here I just kind of summarize a few things, and we have the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the Nephilim, and I use the Eliud as well, and then demons. So if you're sensitive to this kind of stuff, if you're one of those Christians that don't want to, deal with the demonic and the evil and stuff like that in your games, please don't include it. You can run an absolute game without any of that and still have a blast. However, I believe in armoring Christians, not sheltering Christians, and they should know this stuff. They should know where it comes from. They should know how to protect themselves against it and stuff like that. So to each their own. Build the game how you wish it to be, okay? In the setting, you'll have pagans and pagan practices, and those people, you can't control anybody but you, just as in real life. But you encounter these people, and you encounter people that are giving their allegiance to these Nephilim, these Watchers, these fallen angels, just monsters, just evil people in general. So pagan practices, and you're going to come across people that are entrenched in pagan practices, and that is your job as the player to show these people what they're doing wrong, to show like that. Excuse me, could you hear me on the YouTube?
Guys, this game is so much fun. Like, with him through the whole entire making of the process, it was so fun throughout the whole thing. It's just like D&D, just like no magic.
Yeah, well, the players have no magic.
Yeah, but it's so fun. Y'all should definitely play it.
She's biased.
Said
you're biased.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, you've been playing it. You're biased. Anyway, but you do have things. So again, as she mentioned, players are not allowed magic. They're not allowed to interact with magic. They are allowed to make their own decisions. So if they choose to do that, that's on them. However, we have mechanics in place to punish those kind of behaviors. And when I mean punish, it's basically removing God's grace from you for doing that stuff until you repent and go back. And we can get to that later. But here you can see God's natural gifts. So God knew Adam and Eve would fall, and it was in God's infinite wisdom that he made sure man could flourish and prosper wherever they went, even knowing what would happen with us. So they have plants and they have animals that produce healing, not healing, but not even restorative, but just they help you in your process to play the game as a party. So while healing's not really a thing, the herbal medicines and the smelling salts and all the things that can be produced by a person using God's gift of things found on earth and naturally found, the players are allowed to interact with those things and create those kind of salves and those kind of things that would help their players progress and shake off illnesses and stuff like that. We have divine technology. So I have it where the people or the game master can dive into that as far as they wish. We know that the pyramids and all that were Pumapunku and things like that were built with some kind of technology. And I'm not saying like alien technology or anything like that, but I mean some kind of processes. So there's something they knew that we don't know. And that's just the term technology. So they knew something, they knew how to do something, they knew how to manipulate their environment and use their environment to get the results they needed. When we don't, now our technology has evolved into microwaves and computers and spaceships and stuff like that. So we think of technology as like our TVs, but technology just means like the tools to get something accomplished. So the game master is free to dive into those however they wish. We have divine relics, divine technology, and I have certain artifacts and certain things that come from the kingdom of God.
And there's a certain class that can...
Don't get there yet. Yeah. We'll get there. But yes. There's you can say it. There's
There's a
class.
certain class that can decipher like angelic script,
Mhm.
and that class is the Explorer.
Okay, good job. All right. And magic items, that stuff is in here as well, because the pagans and all that would be using stuff like this. They would be given homage to that. They would believe in these items. The players are not allowed. So if they come in contact with these magic items, the game master should make it known to these people that this feels magical. This feels like it's wrong. It feels like you shouldn't be handling stuff like this or interacting with stuff with this. So the player knows the difference between, I don't know, like a naturally glowing rock that would have been found before the flood or something like that, versus a magic item that they shouldn't be interacting with.
Yeah.
All right, so come out from among them. This is where we get into the pre-life of your character before they were called. Not really important as a playable aspect per se, like it's not inherently important to your character creation, but it can be important to story creation, story progression.
Like, if you lived in a certain part of your town and y'all go back there, there could be stuff that people know you for or something.
That's true. I mean, so right, just like today, you could be judged by the sins of your past rather than where you are now, right? And we fall into that trap a lot. We judge people based on what we knew of them or what we've heard of them rather than who they are and what they are now. So come out from among them. You could have been a pagan. You could have lived with pagans. But whatever and however you discovered that that path was wrong, you are now set on a path to turn those people that are still following that old practice away and point them to God. So this little section we have, human life is precious, and human life is very precious.
Yes.
We know that God is the author of life, right? So he knitted all of us in our mother's wombs before.
Watching?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Before, he knitted us in our mother's wombs, right? It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim. It doesn't matter if you're the worst person that could ever exist in the world or the greatest person that ever existed in the world. We're all made by God. We're all children of God. So when I say life is precious, it should always be valued as that. So like, we should never be out seeking murder to murder somebody or be a murder hobo or something like that. Like the whole point is to get kids that play Call of Duty and Fortnite, and we get so numbed.
Violent games.
Yeah, you get so numbed by just killing an imaginary person, and it's imaginary, so whatever. But I want them to stop and now self-reflect and think, well, yeah, this is imaginary, but even in this imaginary world, I'm killing a person, and would God want me to do that? Would God want me to commit murder, even though I perceive that person as evil and unredeemable? Does God view him that way? So it's to help our people start critically thinking in those terms. Now, self-defense, protecting others from violence and stuff like that.
That's okay.
It's up to the game master to understand, or maybe that's the wrong word, but to I can't even think of the word, but to determine how wrong that situation was. Like, could that death have been avoided, or was it something that's unavoidable? Like, maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was, like
persuade.
Just no. I just mean, like, it's up to the game master to determine if it was murder, if it was self-defense, could it have been avoided if it was self-defense or something like that. Okay. And there's mechanics in there. Again, there's a faith mechanic to help the player understand and help them repent and think critically the next time they encounter something like that of, man, can I avoid this? Could this be handled a different way? All right, so then we get down to the corrupted bloodlines here. And again, in this setting, you have the Nephilim, the Eliud, you have monsters, you have these twisted creations. Monsters are God's beasts that he created and twisted into evil creations of those. So Satan can't create, he just twists, right? He corrupts everything. So anything corrupted, not spiritually, so not a human that's just spiritually corrupted, or, you know, somebody who's a pagan.
Like possession?
So the demonic, you should be trying to remove. The people you should be trying to save.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm talking about, corrupted bloodlines, is this would be like the Nephilim. So these were a formation, a creature born out of God's design.
Yeah, because
So,
he did not make them.
Right. This would be like a half divine, half human creature.
The angels
That
and the
spirit wouldn't have been
human
created
children.
by God, right? So that corrupted bloodline, you know, those shouldn't be penalized for being destroyed, is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. All right, and then finally we get down to where we're actually starting the game. So I'm talking to y'all, and we are going to kind of flesh out what a tabletop RPG is and how you would play. And I would imagine most of y'all here that are
Playing now.
no, stop. Most of you all that are playing tabletop RPGs, or on this channel rather, are accustomed to a tabletop RPG. And all this is you're sitting down at a table. It's a game played mostly in your imagination. So it's the theater of the mind game.
yeah.
And what that is you have a game master. So I'm sharing the screen, right? You see this? Let me see. Yes. Okay. Oh, that's trippy. No, you're good.
Wait, you checked the stream?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I just saw you type, but I can't see it while I'm sharing the screen, so I don't know if anybody's.
I'll keep the stream on my phone so we can see if anyone comments.
Anyway, Game Master. Game Master is the person that is weaving the story, right? So he or she. I'll say he a lot because I'm always the game master, it seems like. So it's not a sexist thing. It's just me just defaulting to me. All right. So the game master is the ultimate storyteller. They have a vision of where they want the story to start and where they want the story to end, and they have bullet points in between, and they're trying to get you from point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
But the game master's mission is to tell that story while giving the players creative license to do whatever their characters want. So if their players get off track, they shouldn't railroad, as we call railroad, make the players go that way. They should find creative ways to draw or to give a plot hook to get those characters back on track where he wanted them to go, without it feeling like it's forced, right? Just give them little breadcrumbs, or give them reasons to go where you want them to go, rather than force them to go and they hate that path, okay? And if you can't get them there, just evolve it a different way. It doesn't have to.
Lead them there.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to even be the end goal how you want it. Who cares? As long as the players are having fun, as long as they are understanding their roles, as long as they are now seeing the game through a planting seed relationship, right? Through a disciple kind of relationship, you're winning. Like the game is winning.
Mm-hmm. The game is gaming.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it doesn't have to. You don't have to defeat the big bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's, who cares? If the players are having fun, if they're out there winning people over for God, and they're doing all this fun stuff that we as Christians find fun, and we still get to indulge in all of these little fun RPG elements.
Yeah, like the last game where we were in the.
All right, but don't get us off.
Yeah.
You're gonna get us off track. I'll get stuck on a tangent. All right. So again, now the players are, the game master is the primary storyteller. The players are the ultimate storytellers. And what I mean by that is, the game master has an idea, the players always
Control where it goes.
always veer off that path, because they are putting themselves in what you say. So like, oh, you're in this underground dungeon, and it's dark, it smells of mildew, and it's creepy, and you don't want to be there. Well, you have some players who want to investigate, you have some players who might want to leave, you have a plethora of different kind of responses. So you have to be able to bob and weave with that. But you got to realize they're building their stories, they're seeing the world that you're telling, and you're trying to meet them halfway and finish telling that story.
Yeah.
So don't take their creative license. Just be better at game mastering to get them where they need to be. Okay. All right, and then our dice. So we use classic tabletop RPG dice. So the common set is a seven set of dice that comes in a 4 all the way to a 20. I haven't felt the need to use that entire RPG set, and it's for statistical and mathematic reasons.
Well, you can use a 20-sided die, but
no, you can't, because none of the mechanics allow for a 20.
It isn't?
No.
Okay.
So we only have
a 12.
A 12?
9?
A 9-sided dice?
Is it 8?
An 8-sided dice?
An 8, and then a 4.
And a 4, right. Now, we have a 4, an 8, and a 12. You could use multiple of those dice in some occasions, but mostly those are the only 3 dice currently in the game. And I haven't seen a need to change that just yet, but I'm not, holding it out for a future revision or anything like that, maybe 2nd edition or whatever. But I think it's efficient, and I think it works, and I kind of really like it how it is. All right, character sheet. Everybody needs a character sheet.
Yes, that's what you need.
You can just sit there and narrate, and y'all can just kind of talk and do it that way. And I've done that before in the past. But a character sheet has all your stats, all your abilities, all your weapons, all your gear, all your money, everything you're wearing, all the contacts that you know, the places that you've been to. It's got all your character information. So it's super important. So don't leave those at your house.
Yes, please don't.
You know who I'm talking to.
Oh, yeah, Nathan.
Don't be calling people out. Anyway, miniatures. Miniatures are not a must, but they are super fun. So in the tabletop genre, most of these have ranges, combat ranges, movement ranges, stuff like that. And outside of combat, it's not a big deal. Inside of combat, it helps, especially new players, to be able to see how far away this opponent or this object or this goal is and how far they can move. You have area of effect abilities that might cover 15 feet cone, and without seeing where these people are, you're just blindly telling the game master, well, I want to hit these, and these. And the game master and the player might be seeing that battle scene 2 different ways. So miniatures, I always endorse miniatures. I always love playing with it. We build our own terrain. It makes it so much more fun. All right. So, well, that's probably both of us. We get to ability traits. So this is a classic. This game is designed to combat D&D, Pathfinder, stuff like that, right? So I want to give Christians and non-Christians an outlet to play in a world where God exists, and he's primary and he's the ultimate. When we play Pathfinder and D&Ds and games like that, God doesn't exist in those places. And I know some people are like, God exists everywhere. He does, but it's imagination. So it's supposed to be a separate realm. Think of like Narnia or Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted a game where I could play with God in my world. So that's what this is. So that being said, this game is built. This game is built with that in mind, where players can easily adapt coming from those large megalithic games, just to come over and easily pick up a one shot and know how they're playing. Okay, so it's skill-based game. Those skills are based off your abilities, and those following abilities are physical, education, technical, social, awareness, and I'm not going to go into depth right now. We'll do that in a later video. But they affect every bit of your skills, and your skills affect controls. Okay, and that determines if what you're trying to accomplish is successful or not, or to the degree of successful or not.
One of the most important parts.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, human characteristics. So while there's these monsters, these creatures, these Nephilim, the player only has the choice of playing a human. Humans are all the same. You can be any color, you can be any culture. I don't care about that. I believe that we're all the same. We're all the race of human. So you can determine these few things to start off with. You have your speed, and all humans have a generic starting speed. We'll get to how that can change later. Your vision, you have a certain standardized vision in low light conditions and no light conditions. That changes. That explains it. Finally, gender, male and female, the only two genders, and your genders affect how you are. Men and women are not the same. We don't behave the same. We don't act the same, and we're physically not the same. So a female and a male both have different bonuses to their abilities. That's explained there.
That's a very new addition to the game.
That's a new addition, yeah. But a very much needed one.
Do you know about the website yet?
No, we're not going over the website right now. All right, so skills. So skills, again, are directly corresponding to your abilities, right? And here's a quick, list down here of what they are. Here's a quick explanation of what they are. Can you stop that, please? And in the skills, this would be your difficulty class. So Dungeons and Dragons would use a DC check, right? Difficulty check. This determines the range at which those are being able to be used in sorry, my daughter. Okay. You have skill checks. You increase your skills. You have a chance to do that every other level. You have proficiencies, skill proficiencies. So if you're proficient in, let's say, nature, and your natural bonus is like a 7, right? And you roll your dice and you roll a 3, well, that automatically will get rolled up to a 7 because you can't roll less than what your actual proficiency is. Hindered. You were super loud. So hindered, that is basically, what is the word? Man, words, they're so hard. It's an imposition on your rolls. Tell him to close that door, please. And again, I'm sorry, y'all, but I don't have time to do all and edit all this stuff, so you have to struggle with your life in being family life. All right, so nature. Skills. Here's all your skills. They kind of explain what they would accomplish or how you would use those in those situations. All right, so we have our faith system. Every character has a faith system. This gives them access to certain abilities. This also gives them access to these little columns over here, and they earn faith points as they play. They earn faith points from accomplishing goals, from turning people towards God, from godly behaviors. It's really, there's a plethora of ways you can earn faith, there's only a few ways you can spend them. Okay, and
They're pretty useful.
they are pretty useful. And when you do things that would not align with God's will, so let's say you murder somebody, you lose this faith mechanic. So you lose all of these abilities to use this stuff until you repent, you fast, and you pray, and that faith mechanic is restored back to your character. And then, so like this is like a divine dice, for instance. A divine dice is, so when we roll our skills, we're going to roll a 1d12, and we're going to add our skill number to that modifier, or a modifier to that rolled number, and that's going to be your overall roll number. And that's going to determine if you're successful or failed. A divine dice would give you an extra 1d12 to roll to that, and you would take the higher of the two. If you lose your faith mechanic, you can't even have access to that divine dice or any of these other things. So like as a player in some classes can give a divine dice to another character or another player as an ability. But if you don't have that faith mechanic, they can't even use their ability on you. So it's pretty important to stay in the faith.
And not be an arsonist.
And not an arsonist. That's a good point. All right. Dice mechanics. So we have attacking and defense. These are both the same. They're both handled the same way. It's a roll-off. So it's a roll-off between the player and the combatant, or the player, or whoever is in combat, or whoever's rolling against each other, they would roll their d12, add their bonuses. This person would add their d12, add their bonuses and their armor if they're wearing it, and then whoever has the highest wins. They successfully hit or successfully block or dodge or whatever. Critical rolls. We are on a 1d12, so critical rolls do not exist.
Why is it on subscribers only mode?
It's on subscribers only?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know. I thought I put it on public. Maybe I put it on.
Someone else joined.
I don't know.
If we
Anyway.
die, we'll then back up to 2.
Okay. Anyway. All right. So fight or flight. With any living creature, they're all at the whim of fight or flight. And what this does is, as a creature, this only applies to non-player characters, right? So it could be anything else other than the players. They are given the fight or flight mechanic, and if they choose to flee, they're given additional speed to do so. There's no such thing as attacks of opportunity, though they can be given by the game master. It's not a default mechanic, okay?
Yeah.
And then if they choose to fight, their defenses are bolstered for that moment. But you also got to realize they're probably low on exhaustion, and we're going to get to exhaustion right now.
Yeah.
But they're probably low on exhaustion, and it's more of like a adrenaline rush where they're trying to get something accomplished.
Exhaustion's also really useful.
Yeah, exhaustion is your life. Okay, so we call your health exhaustion, and think of like your fight as a choreographed fight. And dude, you're gonna have to stop with the candy. I guarantee it. Every one of those wrappers are being picked up in the microphone.
I'm gonna
Just stop.
go.
Just wait. All right, so the exhaustion is our term for life. It's a choreographed fight. And as you are dwindling in exhaustion, your character is getting closer to being defeated, okay? Doesn't mean they're dead. Doesn't mean they are completely conquered or anything like that. It just means that they're getting really close to being defeated in that instance, or blacking out or falling unconscious or something like that. Okay.
No, there's some instances that you could die.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, at first, and we'll have to make sure the editor catches this, but I was using exhaustion and exhaustion for both health and damage. but now I realized I was super confusing. So damage should be reflected as damage, but it's removing exhaustion from a character. It's not always physically damaging or physically attacking something. It's lowering their exhaustion.
With another word for damage.
Damage. So you can recover your exhaustion. There's many ways you can take a break. You can rest, and there's also quick recoveries because it's not health per se. You're not healing a wound that's bleeding and gushing. You're restoring energy, basically. That person is weak. They need energy restored. And to do that, we have things like smelling salts and stuff like that that will invigorate somebody instantly and keep them in the fight. All right, combat actions. Initiative. We have initiative. This, I don't know if I changed this and addressed it. Initiative can get kind of bogged down depending on the group size. So like, I don't know if I told y'all, but my current group, I think I have 9 at the max, around 7.
Yeah. Last time there was like 4 though.
Yeah, but we had a lot of people missing because the wedding.
Yeah.
But initiative, when you're trying to roll and you have all these monsters and there's a ton of you, gets chaotic to try and keep track of all that. So I don't know if I have it in here yet. I'm not going to read it to go through that, but we'll have it where you can either roll, because some classes have that bonus to their initiative. And also, it's whoever attacks first and then go clockwise or counterclockwise, however you want to do it. We talk about rounds, how fast those are, and these are all the actions that you can take within a single turn, okay? So you have a move action, you have double movement, so you're given up all actions, all other actions to be able to run, basically. You have a hold action, which is it's like a triggering event. So I'm going to hold my bow, and once this monster enters this room, if it enters this room, I'm instantly going to fire. So that's a hold action. The classic attack action, a free action. So free actions like talking in turn, or yelling to an opponent, or yelling to a friend while you're in battle, or something along those lines that doesn't necessarily take up an entire movement or an entire combat action, but you can still do within that turn. And a prolonged action. So a prolonged action is a little different. This is something you constantly have to be doing while in your action, and you can't stop, or whatever you're doing ceases to happen. For instance, like let's say a portcullis fell, and one of the players snatched the chains or the rope to hold it, and they're constantly trying to pull that back while everybody gets through. That's a prolonged action. Okay. Reaction, surprise action. Reaction, obviously, you're reacting to something that happened to you, and a surprised action is you taking advantage of a situation where somebody's not paying attention to you, and you usually get some benefits to that, especially depending on your class.
So it's like a sneak attack, basically.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But not always.
Yeah.
As you would think of like a sneak attack, but a surprise action could also be like you put like a sedative in somebody's drink,
yeah,
or something like that. Not that we condone that, but
it's
that they're not aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so you have attacking. Again, we kind of went into most of this. The only caveats here with your attacking is we have action ability slot. So some of your class abilities will require you to use an action ability slot. And basically you have so many of these a day that you can use. These will go up in increments the higher the level you get. So the more times you can cast, I say cast, that's a terrible word, more time you can do these abilities. And then some abilities require more than one action ability slot.
Or the more slots you use.
Mm-hmm. Weapon exhaustion modifier. I think I changed this. Sorry, this is the PDF copy. So some of this stuff may have been changed prior to me exporting this thing. So you have the weapon exhaustion modifier, and this basically increases all your weapon damage This increases your weapon damage based on your level as you progress. This kind of helps even out the stagnant of being in combat at low levels. Weapons not really changing. You don't have magical abilities or anything like that, so you just get better at wielding the weapons that you are wielding, and that reflects as you level. Fixed defense. So obviously anything that has that's not a person or moving, so like a building or a door, has a fixed defense. So you're not rolling off against that thing to attack it, because it's not dodging, it's literally sitting there. So those fixed defense items are determined by the game master. For you to, you automatically hit it. How much damage does it need to be inflicted? Okay. Speaking of damage,
break a wall down or something.
Right. The wall's not moving. Just how much does it take to take the wall down? So damage types. So we have acid, bludgeoning, cold, fire, lightning, piercing, righteous, slashing, and spiritual. You can read those descriptions, but different people, different classes, and different monsters all attack differently. They have different resistances and different susceptibilities to those damages. Movement. So humans are all the same. They're 30 feet per turn. Double range obviously would be 60, but they give up all actions. And then you have things here that determine your speed, determining what you're doing, right? So if you're prone, you move this. It takes this much to stand up. If you're climbing, you go this fast based on your current climb speed. Flying, not that you can fly, but you can ride things that fly. There's
like
creatures
dragons.
that fly. There's stuff like that, right? Swimming, tunneling. There's tunneling creatures, and we talk about portals and stuff like that. Okay, that changes your speed. So combat ranges. We have melee, medium range, long range. You can look at what those determine, and then those are also reflected on all the weapons in the back of the book, and it'll tell you if it takes a melee, a medium range, or a long range. And again, outside of combat, range doesn't really matter per se. It's not really super intricate to know that my character can only move this much when he's in combat. Conditions. These are all the conditions your player may find themselves under. These can be inflicted in a myriad of ways, whether from a person, whether from a creature, whether just from stupidity of running into a building or whatever. So running encounters, this is where we get to creature size. So we have the behemoth, and here would be average size human right here. And then here would be like a normal Nephilim. And here would be like a monstrous Nephilim.
Jeez.
And then something like Behemoth or Leviathan would be that large. But again, these are put here.
That's
if
like
you
a
play with
dragon
miniatures,
size?
depending on the dragon, yeah. But like Leviathan is about that size.
Jeez.
Or bigger. But if you're playing with a grid, this tells you what size these creatures would take up on that grid, and what size you would take up one little spot on a grid, and some of these will take up multiple spots on a grid. It just helps with battle mat combat, basically. So beasts and monsters, right? Beasts are everything created by God, right? Everything on day 6, or any day, any of the days of creation that God created, not anything else, right?
That's
So
like
beast
a mammal or an animal.
always refers to a natural animal. So we have the Watchers, divine, so that's the thing of the kingdom of heaven, whether it is now evil or still good, it's just related as divine. We have demons. So the demons are the byproduct of a destroyed Nephilim. So if you kill a Nephilim, just know that it's also going to come back as a demon. How that works is for you to find out, or for the GM to throw into your game. But just keep that in mind as you'll play, that even though you're destroying something, it's also coming back as something. So maybe there's a better way to take care of those problems.
Yeah.
We have monsters. So these would be monsters, even though like, a giant, a Nephilim is a monster. Monsters are more referred to as, so like, a lion is, of God, but like Chimera is not created by God. So that would be a monster. That would be something that evil took and twisted and took away, while beasts are natural and pure. Monsters aren't. We have the Nephilim, again, the byproduct of angels and humans. And then in this game, you have where the Nephilim can reproduce. Not that we know if that was even possible, but that would be referred to as the Eliud. And in this game, the Eliud are more human-looking or more monster-looking. So the Eliud would be your werewolves, your centaurs, your things like that. That would be questionable whether it's a monster, but it looks human,
Is
and
it
blah blah blah.
like that one werewolf we encountered while playing the game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
All right, and you have plants. So obviously, we have no idea what the plant life was before the flood. I mean, we have vague ideas of some things, but the plant could be amazing fauna and flora before the flood.
like you could make up your own flower.
But also, this also comprises of the twisted plants too, right? So there might be sentient plants that are possessed, or that are now, they're not good plants. They're hurtful plants. There's, like the Venus flytraps, now a carnivorous plant. There's things like that are, thrown under plants. I have this little excerpt here because I have a monster manual called the Blessed and Baned, and that will help you, especially one of the classes, determine what all these monsters are and how they act, how they fight, and their abilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more useful than you think.
All right, so we have leveling again, levels 1 through 10. And we're not gonna dive into character creation because that'll take a video by itself, and I don't want to belittle that and do it injustice. But through the process of leveling, you'll choose your traits. Every level that you can choose a trait, you have 2 choices. So you get a natural ability, so your class automatically can do something just inherently by getting stronger, and then you'll have 2 choices after that fact to choose from. And one does a certain thing and one does the other thing, but once you choose these paths, they can't be undone. Like, you can never go back and get that second ability that you didn't choose. So that also allows multiple, like if everybody was playing like a warrior, you might not all have the same abilities. So you can still have multiple people all behaving differently.
Yeah, like in our game, there's 2 Beastmasters.
Are completely different.
Yeah, we chose 2 different paths.
Without trying.
Yeah.
So you have blessings, and blessings give your characters innate abilities to start with, and not like magical abilities. I'm just saying like blessings, for instance. One always allows you to have the max exhaustion every time you level, so you don't need to roll.
And it's so cool.
For exhaustion, you just get the natural amount that your class allows. Or you have wealthy, where every level up, you start with max money plus additional money, and then every level you're part of a wealthy family or something of note of that kind, and you get additional money every time you level. So it's things like that. Perks are small, subtle ways to increase gameplay, like for your character.
You can learn a whole nother language, or
right. You can learn
like stuff
a dialect,
you can do over time.
Language. You can learn if you're a musician, you can learn how to play an instrument, stuff like that. So here we get into classes. We have 9 classes. I'm going to keep this brief and just go over it. We're going to do a separate video on just classes. But again, starting, we have the Beastmaster. We have your rest dice. So this will be the number that I just talked about every time you level. He has 2d4. He would roll 2d4 and he would add that exhaustion to his new exhaustion. Or if he had the blessing of, he would just automatically have a +8 to add to his exhaustion. So you have skill proficiencies. This is what your class would be geared toward. This is their main skill set, basically. Okay. And again, proficiency means that those two skills, they could never roll lower than their bonus allows. So if they have a +7 in nature and a +7 in knowledge, but they roll a 3, that automatically gets rolled up to a 7 because they're proficient in it. Okay. And then again, at starting, you get a +2 and a +1 to one of your skills, just based off the class. And then abilities can be chosen, blessings can be given that will actually increase those for you as you grow. Everything gets a starting gear, so you could either choose from one or the other, and
silver or
starting
gear.
silver, or you can choose just starting silver, and you could purchase all your own stuff. Okay. You have weapon type used and armor type used, right? So while anybody in real life can wield and use anything, it just keeps the RPG mechanic easier and more unique. Okay?
More able to explore different items.
Right. So this is, you can choose any one-handed weapon, any ranged weapon, and any pole arm. You're able to use those, and you're able to use them not hindered, right? So there's no penalty imposed on you for using anything that falls within those categories. Armor type used, you can use any armor that is considered light armor. All right. And then here we get to, this is your leveling process. So you'll pick one of these every other level. And then in between every other level, at every other level, you get to pick a skill or a perk. So you get to put a +1 in a skill of your choice. Or you can pick a perk, which would be like a new language, learn how to use a new tool, learn how to use a new instrument, stuff like that. And again, let me see if I can zoom this for you. The other way. All right. So this would be at level 1. Okay. So this gray ability, this dark gray, ability, you automatically receive. So at level 1, boom, you can do this, no matter what path you choose. Then you pick either command or companion. Okay. So you would choose one of these, and if you chose command, so you're able to command any animal that you see or that can hear you within 60 feet. Companion is now taken away from your options, so you'll never be able to have companion. You can only use command. Okay. I'm thinking about putting a blessing in that could undo that and allow you to choose something else, but I haven't put them in yet. But again, that's how the leveling process works. We're not going to do that for every class and show you, because.
But then if you don't like something, you know for next time.
Yeah, right. But we'll get to that. But anyway, so the 9 classes, you have a Beastmaster, you have a Blacksmith, which can create their own weapons. They're pretty devastating. You have a Brawler. They're more of a martial arts, hand-to-hand combat. They do not use armor.
Doesn't the, what are they called? You just said it.
Blacksmith?
Yeah, but don't they have like an extra attack? Is one of their options?
A few classes have extra attacks, but yes, the Brawler has a lot of attacks. You have Explorer. The Explorer is the one that she was mentioning earlier that can interpret or help decipher lost script. I guess I haven't gotten to it yet, but we have languages in the game, just like all our languages evolved in 2,000 years. And, we all say that, oh, well, there was one language before the flood, but it doesn't say that. It just says after the flood, God confused every language. because Noah and his children would have all spoken the same language.
Yeah.
So we allow other languages to happen. So you can go to a different culture in the world, and they speak a different language or a different dialect of a language but the words are kind of weird.
But everyone can all speak one.
Yes.
Along with their natural
the language of trade is called broken creation. Okay, so no matter where you go in the world, somebody will be able to talk with you in the language of broken creation. But anyway, so the explorer is good at setting traps, removing traps, and deciphering and interacting with divine artifacts and stuff like that. Deciphering angelic script, stuff like that. All right, the herbalist, this is one of your healers. So he or she is good with smelling salts and
saying she because the characters in our game.
Yeah, because y'all are all females or herbalist. They're good at restoring that exhaustion to the party. They're good at assessing the environments that they're in and seeing if this is a bad environment to be walking through, dangerous rather,
especially
or
they're
like a healthy
used
environment.
To the nature.
Right, because they're used to this plant life and what its purposes serve. These pages are skewed because this is not set for print. This is not the one that's set for print. So
yeah,
like this page here should be up here, and this page should be here.
But they're not.
But they're not because I have reasons. But anyway.
Because I have reasons.
So she's got a blending table. She's allowed to make smelling salts and concoctions and so many per day.
She is like 4 pages.
She's 3, I think. 4? She is 4. The hunter. So the classic hunter is a ranged character, but it doesn't have to be.
Don't they are excellent at hunting Nephilim?
Yeah. So they choose. So you either choose like the seed of the serpent or the seed of man. So you determine if you're a monster hunter or if you're a Nephilim hunter. And their bonuses kind of dictate those paths, or their path dictates those bonuses.
Yeah, I like the hunter class. That's one of my favorites.
The musician, which is the guy that plays a musician in my party, is an absolute blast, and he's made this class so much fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he is so funny.
They are also a healer.
Yeah.
And a buffer, or a debuffer.
Now, this class might sound like it has magic, but it doesn't.
No, it just plays music.
Like
they just play music.
Yeah.
But they invigorate you. They restore your energy of being in combat, because music has the power to hike you up or to take you down. So that's why we don't have healing.
But it does.
That's why we have
like depressing music.
Exhaustion. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they excel at, and they excel at crowd management because everybody can hear their music. And then we have the spy. So the spy can be played either as
the spy class that we have is hilarious.
They could either be played as the character who lurks in the shadows, or the prominent, speaker that is just so
good at fooling and tricking people.
Well, not tricking, but they're so charismatic that they're able to pull out information. They're able to
so subtle with it.
Yeah, they're able to get the information they need without even trying, because
they
they're just so
walk
charismatic.
around.
So you can play it almost polar opposites, which is really cool.
Yeah, just like we have 2 polar opposite.
We have 2 spies, and they both are completely different.
One wants to sneak around, steal stuff. The other wants to find out information. Yeah. These classes are so much fun.
All right, then we have the classic warrior. So the tank, the guy who wrecks shop.
Maybe my game that I'm making could be a battle game based off of this.
Okay, do it.
That would be fun.
Do it. So you have the classic warrior. they are just a devastating wrecking ball on the battlefield, or they are the sentinel that guards everybody on the battlefield. This is a very fun class. I thoroughly enjoy the warrior. All right, so that's all 9 classes. Again, I'm not getting into depth because I went to do separate videos dedicated to each class, right? All right, here is a brief look at the blessings. So again, you get to choose a blessing at creation. You get one at level 4 and you get one at level 8. So you get to choose one of these abilities at those levels. So the starting blessing that you pick will definitely determine how your character kind of evolves as the level, right? So if you have, let me zoom this up for you. If you have, just say like anointed, you get a +1 to it, all Nephilim and monsters. Or let's say you have, what is it? Devout. You start every day. So every day the game, in-game, a new day, you get a +1 to your faith points. I didn't tell you earlier, but that maxes out at number 10. But faith, again, and those faith points that you can use are tremendously helpful in the game. So if you just start the game and you get one every day, your character awakes, that's awesome. Or you have things like, where is hardened? Is it hardened? Yeah, so hardened is the one I was telling you about.
I think I heard that
max exhaustion every time you level. So you don't roll your rest dice, 2d4 or 3d4. You automatically get the 8 or 12.
Close quarters.
Yeah, close quarter.
Isn't that where like you don't take any penalties for using a long range weapon in short range?
Mm-hmm. Here is the perks we talked about. I'm not going to focus on those just because it's
it's a long.
No, it doesn't really need to be focused on. All right, here we kind of briefly discuss the world because we're about to get into cultures. So we have
cultures.
The world in this concept is like Pangea. So it's all one giant continent, right? So travel, you should think of in terms of like crossing the United States from California to New York or to Charleston or something like that, or going from France to the end of Russia. Like, so you need to think huge landmass. That's how we have the world perceived. Okay, so traveling, you can travel by multiple ways, and your game master can invent or create any kind of new ways they wish to go.
However y'all want this game to go, just you can put it in that way. There's not even
just keep it aligned
to
God.
You can play it with 2 people. You don't even need too big of a group. So
we have lost temples. We'll kind of explain that probably in a different video, but that's basically when I have it where when Satan and rebelled and the Watchers rebelled and all that, they created for themselves these temples throughout the world, and then when they realized that they could steal the dominion and they could have humanity do what they want, they abandoned these temples and set up shop, in civilizations so they would be worshipped. I put Atlantis in here just for anybody who wants to have and play that. I have it as, again, a place of the fallen. So that's where all this ancient technology and this divine technology and all these ancient secrets and all these magical practices, all that stuff comes from Atlantis, and that's somewhere in the world. You'll have to figure that out. Rain, again, I mean, if you want to include rain, we know that people didn't anticipate the flood happening, and we're told that the mist came up and watered the ground. So you can choose to put rain in your game or not. If you have rain in your game, it determines if you have snow. But again, it's for creative purposes.
But there's some deserts, places where there is snow and stuff.
Yeah, like in the mountains. And,
Valeria.
All right. So then we get into the false gods who rule. Again, we're talking about the Nephilim, the Watchers, all this stuff. We get into the war between the gods. So now these Nephilim and these Watchers that we know from Enoch are now warring with each other.
People keep
and
leaving.
killing each other off. That's right.
It's like we just got to 3 and then
Well, this guy's an idiot. We have God's Calendar. So this is based off of Dr. Ken and Donita Johnson of BibleFacts.org. They gave me this. They gave me the calendar, and then I went in and just kind of made it all nice and pretty and elaborate. We used the name of the months that we learned in the time of Moses, but before that, apparently they didn't have names and they were just numbers. But anyway, to keep track of your days in game, I gave you a calendar that we found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and this is supposed to be God's calendar that was. What was the word? Kept. I don't know. I can't think of the word. But that's so you can help keep track of your game. Again, here's our cultures. There's a ton of cultures in the game. I only give you a few just to help you flavor your character. They will have 2 positive traits and 1 negative trait to help gameplay and stuff like that. So you can go in and pick a culture. Here you can see positive traits. You can pick 2 of those. Negative traits, you can pick 1 of those, or you can roll a 1d12 and take any of the 3 that pop up. So you could end up with 3 positive, 3 negative, whatever. Just obviously, if you have a double, like if you have a number, just re-roll if you already have it. But again, these cultures are set up a way where the game master and the players can kind of relate with those cultures, right? So, for instance, we have like the Nephilim culture. Well, this is the Vikings, right? So if you went to this territory or this land, that's the aesthetic, that's the idea, that's the pantheon that these people follow that you need to take away from them, right? So like if you go to Vidgard where the Nephilim people are, they would have a pantheon of corruption of these false gods that they follow, and you would go in there, or if you're from there, and try to point them back towards God by taking down these false gods. But anyway, so for instance, I don't tell you what cultures these are supposed to reflect. I just give you the idea through descriptions of what they feel like. So again, like Cush, I don't tell you that's Egypt, but you should be able to read this, look at the pantheon that these people would worship or would fear or something like that, and then you would be able to understand that those would be, what we perceive as Egyptians. That's what their culture would look like. I know that's well after the flood, but that just helps us modern people kind of connect to an idea or visualize something that we can play in the game. So here, this is our world as a whole, and here are some of the cultures. These are the main powers, the main seats of power within the 2,000 years after Adam that have come to power, and you can delve into all these little territories. They explain what they look like, how they react, their territory, the capital city, what their culture is called, the language they speak, and the powers that they follow, right? So I'm not going to go through all these because there's a lot. But again, you can see, and I tried to help you, giving you a picture with aesthetics to help you understand further if my description wasn't clear. Hopefully my editor will be able to help you with that as well. Canaan, I still have Eden in there, though it's not accessible. You have, just all kind of just fun little cultures that you can paint pictures with. All right, so then we get to the wealth section of the book. This is where all your gear, all your food, weapons, mounts, stuff like that. All that's in this section. This tells you your starting wealth if you did not choose gear, starting gear. This would tell you your wealth. You'll also have mechanics or descriptions in here that if you start at a different level, you would choose this times this, blah, 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 to get you started. Here we can see one-handed melee weapons, right? So how much they cost, what's their damage, you know, S for slashing, B for bludgeoning, P for piercing, how much it weighs, because I do have encumbered and weight limits and push limits and carry limits in here. You can ignore them if you wish. I don't often use them, but I like them there when I do use them. It just depends on the size of the party that I'm running with or gaming. And again, just some little brief properties, light, one-handed, what's the range, you know, here, this grapples, blah, blah, blah. So you have melee, one-handed, melee, two-handed, you have pole arms, unique weapons, you have ammo, ranged weapons, you have weapon proficiencies. Again, weapon exhaustion modifier again is mentioned here. And then weapon properties. So, you know, heavy, light, ranged. Is it ammo? Is it a weapon type of bludgeoning, piercing, slashing? Improvised weapons. I tell you here, some things you could use as anything could be used as an improvised weapon.
Who's this guy you were on that live with?
Baby, I don't know. I don't know. So special weapons, divine weapons, and relics. This will all be further fleshed out in greater detail in a different book probably. But here we get to specialized ammo, and this kind of gives you the feeling of having those super fun powers that you would get in playing like a classic RPG where they would use magic or something like that to create an effect. But the humans in our game, you know, a follower of God, you are not to touch and play with magic in God's world. So here you are able to use these blends of nature and animal byproducts and stuff like that that creates a response. So for instance, black powder, so, you know, to make things go boom or to slow things down or to make them slippery and stuff like that. So this kind of gives you that magic feel without using magic. And they're far from magic. It's literally just materials.
But it's so fun even without it.
Mm-hmm. Especially when like Judy's trying to like blow up.
Real, like making grenades.
Yeah. But I give you that stuff. I give you like the ingredients that you need to make these things. So it's up to the players to be able to have to purchase these, or they have to go in the environment and find them, stuff like that. This is, you know, specialized ammo, explosives, elixirs. They all have comparable things they can do, but they all behave differently. So you would have like touch or splash. You would have range or AoE kind of damage, and then you would have range damage. Armors and shields. Armor affects your defensive roll, obviously. And some classes are prohibited from certain types of armor, and you can only use certain types. Some can use all. But you can find all of those here under the armors and shields. And here you can, in the chart, you can see what their bonuses to your defense are, and you know, adjust your character sheets accordingly. I don't know if I mentioned, but in the characters they have starting gear kits. So what is your starting gear kit? Well, this is like your basic supply. So you could have a basic, an explorer, a delver, or a technical kit, and that kit you would purchase automatically comes with all the things listed. Or you would get that starting gold and go buy individually what you want. Here is your gear list. I'm not going to spend time on this. You can go download this PDF for free, or you could wait till we're done editing, and then you can purchase a hard copy. But the game will always be free as a PDF. So here's your tools. Tools of like a craft or a trade. here are a few instruments that the musicians or anybody can really purchase, but obviously for a musician. Here are your mounts and your transport costs and capacities if they are like ships and wagons. And here we have a behemoth dragon, which would be like a brontosaurus or one of those large neck dinosaurs that you could also ride. Nourishment, here is your food that you'd be able to go into. And these are not a full comprehensive list. This is just try to give you an idea of what things kind of cost, and the GM could make, their own list of whatever they want to put and include in the game. And then here is a step-by-step of how to create your character. I hope that this is clear enough for you to kind of stumble through at least once or twice. It's vaguely, if you could make a character in Pathfinder or Dungeons & Dragons or anything like that, this would be super easy for you. Yeah, it's the same. But for people that's never played an RPG or a tabletop RPG rather, this would kind of walk them through the step of how to get it done. I tried to include a few starting creatures, just in case this was the only hard copy of a book that you purchased and you don't like PDFs or whatever. You still have a few characters. I'm sorry, a few creatures and things like that you can include in your game, and it's easy reference right there in your rule book. Finally, here is some symbols that I created, and so this would reflect very much like Hebrew, where a letter has a number that it represents, but this is just, the ABCD is just for us as English-speaking people to have a reference of what that letter would actually be and what that number would represent. So you can create notes and fun things for your characters to hand out to them at the table and kind of let them decipher those things as they go. Here I just put a little quick cheat sheet for you that this is our lineage of recorded fathers from Adam all the way to Noah. This kind of helps you understand where they were in those years. That way you can kind of determine where you want your characters to enter this world at in this game. And finally, here's your character sheet. I'm not going to go over this as well, but this has everything you need to play the game. And again, I don't know how long the stream is. I don't know how long I've been.
It's been an hour.
Rambling on, but that's a long overview. Oh, whoa. How do I go back to?
Dad.
Stop sharing. Okay. So that's how I would give you an overview. That's an overview of the game. We'll go into in-depth and we'll kind of break things down in future videos that are more explanatory, more in-depth, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you all for stopping by. I don't know if anybody actually commented, except for my little girl here. Hi. But anyway, thank you all for stopping by. Thank you all for taking a peek, and I will see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
May God continue to bless you all. Love y'all.